Hey everybody, welcome back. We are in Anguilla. This is Sim Update 4 Beta version 1.6.23. We're going to check out the new NVIDIA driver 581.80 and never one to pass up an opportunity to embarrass myself. I'm going to do it in a Taildragger. We're also going to do it a little bit differently today. I have no frame gen on. So reminder, I have a 12,700K CPU, and I just upgraded to the 4090 GPU. So we're gonna see what the 4090 can do. I actually wasn't planning on doing it this way, but when I loaded into the play, I realized I didn't have frame gen on. So we're just gonna give that a try. I've got pretty much everything maxed on ultra settings. I have AI traffic, offline traffic set up on ultra. I have ground vehicles, parked aircraft, the works, everything at ultra. So we'll see how this works out. Your guess is as good as mine. Upper left-hand corner is Riva Tuner, and the 16.9, that number you're seeing right there is frame times. Lower the better. Anything under 16 is really, really good. That line that's going right to left there is, you'll see spikes in that, in particular when you're changing views like this. But any big spikes we see in that just during the regular course of flying are frame time spikes, and those are indicative of stutter. So we'll see what we get here. We'll go toes on the brakes, rotating beacon on, mixture and prop full, forward master and battery switches on. Let's see here. There is a fuel pump on this airplane, and we'll turn that on to start, which is unusual for high wing airplane, because usually in high wing airplanes the fuel is gravity fed to the engine. What I mean by gravity fed is it flows downhill. It just goes, it works by gravity down into the engine. Anyway, all right, there's that. We'll take a look outside, see if there's anybody out there to kill or maim, and there is not. And we'll crack the throttle here, toes on the brakes. And there's a good start. Magneto's back to both. Let's see here. Amps are good. Oil temperature, oil pressure. The big one you want to see when you start the engine is oil pressure, which is right there. If you don't have oil pressure, one of two things is happening. Either you don't have oil pressure, in which case your engine is running without oil, or you have a faulty gauge. But in any event, if you start your engine and there's no fuel or no oil pressure indicating, you want to kill your engine immediately. Let's go nav and strobe lights on. Let's go taxi light on, and I'm gonna leave the yoke out of the way here just because it's a little easier to see. Now with a Taildragger, obviously the nose being up in the air, it's a little bit more difficult to see over the nose. I can see over the nose in actual Taildraggers because I have the gift of height. But let's see here. We'll release the parking brake. The mixture is lean for taxi. Taxi area is clear. We'll check the brakes. Brakes are working just fine. So let's see here. Cow flap is open. The tail wheel is unlocked, and the trick, well, I don't know if I should say the trick, but the thing about flying Taildraggers is what makes them complicated, or makes them, I suppose, difficult. One of the things they say about Taildraggers is you are flying the airplane until it is parked and tied down. In other words, in a lot of planes, you can, in nose wheel aircraft, you're kind of, once you get on the ground, you're pretty much relaxed. And with Taildraggers, that is most certainly not the case. And the reason is because this little wheel back here really wants to be up here, so it will switch ends on you very, very quickly and very gladly if you give it the opportunity. So you got to really be cautious about that. So let's do a little bit of a run up here. We'll make sure the engine is in good shape, and we'll bring it up to about bring it up to about 1700 RPM. We should turn the mixture, or put the mixture full rich. All right, 1700 RPM. First thing we'll do is check the mags. Left mag, you want less than 150 RPM drop. About 75, we'll go back to both. We'll go right mag, and you want less than a 50 RPM difference in the drop between the two. That drops a little bit more than the left, but less than 50 RPM, so we're good there. Back to both. Now this is a variable pitch prop, so we want to exercise the prop. You don't want it to drop more than about 600 RPM. So we're at about 1700. Pull it back till it goes about 1100. Back in we go. And what we're doing is we're running oil through the system, through the prop governor, just to make sure that's all lubricated and working. And that's good. Fuel pump we don't need to check, so come back to about 1100 RPM and do a throttle idle check. Just pull the throttle back to idle, and when your engine is running smoothly, that's when you're good to go. We'll bring this back up. Lean the mixture out. Alright, so I'm going to go... I'm going to 1 degree of flaps for departure here. Go landing light on, taxi light off. What? Yay. And this is what you have with a moderately competent pilot, such as myself. We'll go... turn the avionics on. Why not, right? Let's have ourselves a good time. I've been lamenting the fact for the last couple days that I really don't get to fly much, and this is a nice nice reminder of that fact. Is that I'm not really sharp on what I'm doing here. All right. Runway is clear in both directions. One thing I did not mention is that I am putting a crosswind correction here. I'm running a 60 hertz monitor, so when you see the FPS up there capped at 60, that's because of VSync. So we'll back taxi here a little bit. Like I said, it's often a bit of a challenge to see over the cowling. So I'm sort of just getting back into flying. I did a little bit of flying last week, as you may or may not know. My dog passed away a couple weeks ago, and it's been really difficult. It's been really, really difficult, and so we've just been kind of adjusting and, you know, getting back to life here a little bit. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on quite a few things. Any of you who saw my video that I entitled "Gratitude" will know a little bit about that. Nice downwind, or perfect wind right down the runway there. You can see off to the right. So, all right. Flaps are set, mixture and prop full forward. And It's a pretty cool airplane. And Taildraggers really make you be precise with what you do. Heading indicator checks with the runway number. Takeoff power is coming in. Takeoff power is set. That tail wheel coming up off the ground. And this airplane flies quickly. It's up quickly. Alright. It's a really fun airplane. I actually quite like it. This is the predecessor to the, basically to the one, to the 182. So there's no fuel pump to turn off at 1,000 feet. Now this is generally right here. I sometimes see a little bit of a frame spike at about 1,000 feet on climb out, but I don't see it today, which is nice. Oh, look at that localized shower right there off the nose. How cool is that? See, that's it right there. Right there. I get that one. That's a very common... And people ask me, like, why do you fly in the same area all the time when you do the tests? And that's why. I told you that was coming before it came. Alright, 50 feet below our cruise altitude. We'll pull the manifold pressure back a little bit. Pull the prop back a little bit. And we'll just let it settle down here. So that that stutter I'm not real worried about. But you saw the frame time spike. It's a little windy down here today. I've got live weather on. It's a little jumpy down here today, so like I said, give myself a perfect opportunity to embarrass myself. So this no, first of all, let me preface this whole thing by saying I am not a Taildragger pilot. I do not have a Tailwheel endorsement, and it's just an endorsement. So when you get your private pilot's license, actually, I don't know if you can get the endorsement before you get your license. I'm sure you actually can if you're training on a Taildragger. You must have to get the endorsement as a student pilot. So in any event, sorry for just gotta adjust the head position here on my Tobii eye tracker. But so when you get your private pilot's license, if you want to fly Taildraggers, it requires an endorsement, which all an endorsement is a sign off by a CFI saying that you've been trained in the in operating Taildragger airplanes and but like I said earlier, the Taildraggers are they're a different breed. And a couple things about flying Taildragger. I mean, in the air, it makes absolutely no difference. There's no no difference whatsoever. The difference is basically either in the flare, the touchdown, or on the ground. Because like this airplane, for example, the instruction in the POH, the pilot's operating handbook, is to land it in make a 3-point landing. So a 3-point landing is all 3 wheels touching down at the same time. So obviously you have to be in a nose up attitude for that to happen, which you want to be in a nose up attitude anyway. Let's take a look. I don't see any traffic. So this is the latest beta version, SimUpdate 4, and I didn't see any traffic yesterday when I had live traffic enabled, and I don't see any traffic today. So that may be a bug. But in any event, so there's basically 2 ways to land a Taildragger. You can land it in a 3-point landing like that, or you land it on the mains, land it on these 2 wheels, and then let the nose come down, or let the tail come down rather. All right, let's bring this back to. Kind of surprised this doesn't have carb heat, but I can't find it anywhere. So I would figure if it did have carb, let's add a notch of flaps. Let's open the cowl flaps. I'm not sure if the cowl flaps need to be open for landing, but generally when an airplane has cowl flaps, there's a reason. Cowl flaps is that right there. It's to let air into the engine. It's for cooling, is the simplest way to put it. And everything is looking beautiful. Alright. Let's keep an eye out down final there. I guess we can start inching it in. I tell you, the sim feels alive. The weather feels alive. It feels great. I've flown this airplane a couple of times. I've got like 3 or 4 landings in it. Alright, fuel pump is not needed. Flaps are coming in. Mixtures in. Props. The mixture is full forward. Prop is in my hand. Go 3rd notch of flaps. Bring out just a little bit more power. Don't let that nose come up. So, PAPIs. The precision approach path indicator. Those 4 lights left or right of the runway here. My good friend Aeronaut David was talking about in a stream of his I was watching the other day, saying he wasn't quite sure. He thought the PAPIs were misaligned, or they weren't set up properly in the sim, because with 2 red, 2 white, he felt like he was low. Well, the thing is about the PAPIs are set for, and we'll go full flaps here. The PAPIs are set for the cockpit height of the tallest airplane that lands at the airport that you're flying to. So 75 is what I'm looking for. So generally speaking, if you've got PAPIs in an airport and it's got a relatively long runway, well, mixtures and props full forward, fuel pump is not needed. Flaps are set, seatbelts are secure, pre-landing checklist complete. If you're not flying like a 737 or an A330 or something like that, then really what you want is 1 red, 3 white, 1 red, in a jet, because that means you're just a little bit, or am I saying that backwards? No, you want 3 red. You want 3 red, 1 white. In a GA airplane, because that'll mean you're a little bit lower than the cockpit. There's power all the way out here. Let me focus on what I'm doing. Get that nose up here. Not too bad. Not great. Mixtures and props full forward. See, this is what you got to be careful of. This is what you got to be careful of, because that little wheel in the back wants to be in the front. So you got to make sure you're on the rudders and aligned. All right. How's our trim? Trim is good. You got to make sure you stay aligned with the runway. There we go. So in a jet, anything smaller than like a 747, something like that, you want 3 red, because you don't need to be as high. In a GA airplane, the flaps up. In a GA airplane, 2 white, 2 red is just fine, because got 25-25 here. When I say 25-25, what I mean is 2,500 RPM and 25 inches of manifold pressure. That's what we call 25 squared. In a GA airplane, it's fine to be... There's a little bit of a spike right there. It's fine to be... flaps are up. Fine to be 2 white, 2 red, because your ground roll is, a couple hundred feet. It doesn't really matter. In other words, you're not in a situation where you might run out of runway, whereas in a jet, if you land long, you certainly could run out of runway. So let's get back down to 1,500 feet. Into flaps are up. To help increase the likelihood of embarrassment and humiliation, we're going to go over to St. Bart's. Got some nice low-level clouds here. Not clouds, but like kind of misty. Bring this back up to 24. Bring that down to about 22. Some nice low-level kind of mucky light clouds. These tend to have, at least in Flight Sim 2020, tend to have more of an impact on performance than like a solid cloud deck, for example. These consistent spikes like that, those are not very high. The spikes that we're worried about, the spikes that go like way, like that, even that's not too bad. But like these are just, I don't know what that is. That may be a background process. that's running. But I noticed they kind of come and go. So let's take a look over here. Fuel tanks are balanced. That's good. One thing I forgot to check on my run-up is my suction. The suction is for the gyros. Gyros are what powers your artificial horizon, your heading indicator. This is, and I'll show you. We'll see right here. Whoops, no. See how this says DC electric? So you've got 3 instruments that are running off gyros. Your attitude indicator, your heading indicator, and your turn coordinator. These 2, as we are descending, let's get back up here a little bit. These 2 are running off the gyros. This is running off an electric gyro. And the reason is because if your gyros fail, these 2 instruments are going to die. And they don't die right away. They die slowly over time, which is even more weird because it'll start doing something like this. It'll start like turning a little bit. And then it'll just slowly kind of drift. I'm not flying very well right now because I want to stay on this view while I talk about this. So these 2 will die. The gyros spin down and stop, and as they do, these 2 die. But your electric turn coordinator, this is run off the electrical system, this turn coordinator will keep running. And what that allows you to do, basically, it gives you it's like a poor man's attitude indicator. You can see, you know, you can see the turns. And basically what you want to do if you're in partial panel, which partial panel means these 2 instruments are dead, and you've got your turn coordinator, your airspeed indicator, your altimeter, and your vertical speed indicator. You use these 3 instruments along with this to keep yourself, what they call dirty side down. keep the dirty side of your airplane down, and hopefully not kill yourself. Hopefully live to see another day. And partial panel is it's challenging, and even good instrument pilots, when they find themselves in a real partial panel situation, can kill themselves. It's not unusual. But a lot of people, when they get into partial panel situations, they kind of stick to what they're doing. In other words, one of the first things you should do if you're in a partial panel situation is ask ATC, is there an airport around that's VFR? You know, a lot of guys will stick to going to whatever their destination is, you know, their filed destination. Whereas, you know, you're now in a completely different situation. You've got instrument failures. So why make things difficult on yourself? I've read accident reports of pilots that were in VMC on an IFR flight plan, lost their gyros, lost these 2 instruments, and elected to continue not only continue the flight, but they flew into instrument conditions from visual conditions into instrument conditions to get to their destination, and wound up losing the airplane and died. You know, so the number 1 rule of partial panel is if you are in visual conditions, stay in visual conditions. That's number 1. Number 2, ask ATC, do you guys have an airport around that is VFR? If so, can you please direct me to that airport? First notch of flaps. You know, don't make anything more difficult than it needs to be, for crying out loud. Second notch of flaps. You know, people make some odd decisions in airplanes. They really do. Alright, so I'm going to want to get this airspeed back. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to be a hero here. So we're going to treat this like it's real life. Okay, first of all, I'm not a tailwheel pilot. I already told you that. But definitely a bit of a right to left crosswind. You can feel that. But I'm not going to be a hero here. If I have to go around, I'm going around. So 80, I'm happy with 80. Go another notch of flaps. One more to go. I'm going to go mixture and prop full forward. In a pretty good spot here. 75. Definitely a left to right crosswind. We're getting blown out here to the right. Alright, last notch of flaps. I think I want to come back here a little bit to the right. Or to the left, rather. Alright, 75 knots. That's what I want. Oh, don't want to get... one thing I don't want to be is slow. I'm going to keep those 1,000-foot markers right there, right where I can see them. Power's coming out. Let's get the nose down. Nope. Power's all the way out. That wind is squirrely. That's back to right to left now. Ooh. We're bouncing, we're bouncing. Oh, power's all the way in. We're going. No, first of all, in real life, that first bounce, let's pick up some flaps here. That first bounce, heading a 060. Get that nose down. That first bounce, I would have been gone, going around, no questions asked. That was flight sim cute right there, trying to see if I could salvage that. We've got the airspeed. Get that next notch up. So as I said, I was going to treat that as real world, but in all honesty, I didn't, because as soon as that thing bounced, it's time to go around. I was looking at the airspeed, trying to see if maybe I could salvage it, but at the end of the day, it wasn't happening. What am I doing? At the end of the day, it wasn't happening. So be it. That's all right. I landed one of the most fun flights I ever did. I landed the Beech 18. I think it was in 2020, Flight Sim 2020. I landed the Beech 18 at St. Barts, which is the twin-engine Taildragger, which is one of the coolest airplanes in the sim. Like, without even any minor shadow of a doubt, one of the coolest airplanes in the sim. So we gave St. Barts a try. I'm not ashamed of my effort. You know, tis what it is. We gave it a shot. So a buddy of mine flies for one of the local outfits down here. Names will be protected to names will be kept in confidence to protect the guilty. But he's got 6,000 hours in Islanders. He can land that thing on a dime. And what he says is, if I don't make it into St. Barts on the first try, and he flies into St. Barts every, a couple times a week. And he says, if I don't make it into St. Barts in the first try, there is no second try. He doesn't even bother. So my question right now is, I have both tanks set. So why is one tank lower than the other? That is an answer to which I do not have the question to which I do not have the answer. And you can see the airplanes leaning to the right because of the fuel imbalance. Is the fuel imbalance an actual imbalance? Yes, it is. So why don't we... Oh! I didn't... Alright, well that explains it. I mean, you can't see that selector. At least I didn't. I didn't notice that. I thought it was on both. It was on left, which is why I was burning off more out of the left. And I was not on both for takeoff and landing, which you're supposed to be. So, there you go. In any event. This is a cool airplane though, no? I like this. I like it. It's interesting, it's different. And by the way, the driver is perfectly fine, and in all of what I have read about the driver, word on the street is that there's a significant performance increase over recent 570, especially the 570 drivers. And you want to be on a 570 driver or higher for your NVIDIA card, because the 570 drivers include some security fixes that you want to have. So my bounces in St. Barts weren't too bad. I was just bouncing on the mains. I wasn't bouncing and then hitting the tail wheel. That's not good. I mean, bounces are not good in any event, but the thing about Flight Sim 24 is now with the improved ground physics and the improved flight physics, you can actually fly Taildraggers and have fun with it, as opposed to in 2020 where it was kind of like bit dicey. There is Grand Casse Airport. And I don't know about you, but I've had fun on this flight. Let's see if we can. I think I'm gonna bag it. I might. Yeah, I think I'm gonna bag it at Grand Cas here in St. Maarten. So this is a big tourist area right here. You can rent condos in here for like $85 a night. It's great. And Anguilla off here. Alright, so fuel is on both. Open the cowl flaps. Bring the manifold pressure back. We'll bring the props back. And we'll just start a lazy descent here. So it's runway 12. So how do you know if you're on, in a high wing airplane, visibility is not that great, right? So how do you know if you're on a good downwind? It's runway 12. Just put the 12 on the bottom of your heading indicator. Just put the 12 right down here, and that way you know, allowing for wind drift, of course. You are on a reasonable downwind. We'll go first notch of flaps here. That nose will pitch up in most airplanes. Most airplanes adding flaps to bring the nose up. Do something I don't like doing, which is we'll add a notch of flaps in a turn. Not too big a deal if it is a shallow turn and you've got some altitude. I don't like adding flaps in turns at low speed and low altitude because you're changing the stall speed of the plane, and in a turn you're increasing the stall speed to begin with. So I just don't like playing with that variable while the airplane is in turn. So take a look down final. Ain't nothing coming. Coming into Grand Cas here, you aim right for the end of this beach. Runway's right over here, so just aim for the end of this beach, and we'll just you just angle it in, nose it in. See, we're getting in, this is not a good example because this is not a square base turn, but another notch of flaps. You want to overturn your base because the wind is blowing this way. That's why you're landing on this runway. So it's going to blow you out away from the airport, away from the runway. So if you overturn your base, we'll go mixtures and props full forward. Fuel pump does not need to be on. Seatbelts are secure. Flaps are set. We got one red. Airspeed is okay. I'm going to be a little bit more demanding of myself in terms of airspeed on this landing. See this? Come on, Ryan. Get on final. See, I went through center line, which I don't like doing. Alright, there's 75. Let's bring in just 70. We'll bring in a little bit of power. Left to right. Crosswind. Out some power. I gotta get on center line. Get on center line. The only way you can tell whether you've got a crosswind or not is if you're on center line. Definitely a little bit of a left to right crosswind. Airspeed is okay. Low speed handling of this plane is really good. Alright, there we go. Oop. Hold it right there. There's a spike, do you see that? Wasn't too bad. They're, I'm telling you, it's...
That was tricky.
Yeah, I'll
Good
tell you.
landing after all.
Sure was there, buddy. Tell you, it's... if you want to improve your landings, flat Taildraggers, baby. Alright, cowl flaps are open. Let's put the flaps up. It's... I mean, the thing is, once you get semi-proficient at flying these, I'm gonna put... And now, when you make this turn... Now, where's the wind coming from? The wind's coming from my right. So I need to put in a crosswind correction here. Again, we're trying to keep that little wheel behind the big wheel. It's the goal. And then you see we let that correction out as we turn here to the... Now the wind is behind us. You've always got to be conscious of where the wind is when you're flying a Taildragger. That's one of the things that makes it fun. Landing light off, taxi light on. See, and I'm not turning with the yoke. I'm putting that again, putting that crosswind correction in. I mean, you've got to be thinking the entire time, which for somebody of my mental capacity is not easy. I will let that out as we square it up here. So, toes on the brakes. Mixture to idle. Cut off throttle is idle. Set the parking brake. Lights coming off. Let's go transponder to standby. Go avionics off before the mags. Mags off. Master and battery switches off. And that's that. It's a little bit of an adventure, and you can see when you switch views, you get that spike. But I mean, overall performance is really, really good. This is SLH Sim Design's Grand Casa Airport. I love this airport in real life and in the sim. It's just a cool airport. And this is one of the things that people have been complaining about in the beta is panning stutters. So that's what those are. But it's nothing driver related, nothing unusual. So that was a cool flight. Driver's good. I kind of enjoy this airplane. I really do, actually. 130 knots it cruises at 125, 130, which is decent. You know, decent speed for single engine piston. So this would be a fun plane to get used to and do some flying with in the sim. But in any event, I hope everybody's doing well. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, etc., would love to hear from you in the comments section below. And I hope everybody's doing well. And we'll talk soon.